everybody. Welcome to It Starts With Me. We are back again. We're going to have an absolutely amazing show today. We have Tai Goodwin, and she is a part of the that marketing team. She is the CEO. She's absolutely amazing. She's going to dive in deep about your ego, about the types of questions that need to be asked in order for you to make the best decisions for your life. And also she dives into failure and what failure truly is. So you're going to want to hear exactly what she has to say because she is fired up and ready to go. So first off, let me go ahead and tell you a few little things about our shows. We have a show on Monday. It's called What It Takes with Michael Seville. You have to check him out on YouTube channel, Michael Seville. And he'll be there at 9 o'clock every single Wednesday at 12:30. It Starts With Me. Come on out here and be with us. And then again on Fridays at 6:30 is the Community Beacon, where myself and Michael Seville continue on our conversations about things that we have gone through that we'd like to share with you to help you to reach your highest level and excel. All right, let me tell you a little more about Tai. So that you can understand just who she is. Tai Goodwin is an award-winning instructional designer, author, speaker, and marketing strategist. She is the CEO of that marketing team. She's a former teacher turned entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in marketing online. After helping hundreds of entrepreneurs leverage social media and online marketing as a coach, she stepped into the agency world to literally take marketing tasks off the plates of her clients. Tai launched that marketing team to support busy CEOs and business owners who are tired of trying to run their company and do all the marketing by themselves. The author of Girlfriend, It's Your Time and co-author of The Profitable Woman's Playbook. Her articles have been featured on the Huffington Post and Forbes.com. She's also been highlighted by Money Magazine, Black Enterprise, and the Boss Network. Please welcome to the show, Tai Goodwin. Hey there, Tai.
I am fantastic. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. It has been a great Monday for me. How about you?
It's so far so good.
All right. How about your weekend?
I drove 20 hours with about 2.5 hours sleep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was fun. I love road trips, but I was moving the last of my stuff from Philadelphia to Florida. And yeah.
Where are you at now?
I'm in Orlando.
Oh, all right. You're close to me.
Oh, where are you?
In Philadelphia.
Where are you?
I'm in Riviera Beach or Palm Beach County.
Okay. All right. You're further south than I am.
I am. It's about 2.5 hours from you, I suppose. We're pretty close to the water, so I really like it.
Yeah, I love the heat. I could not take the cold in Philadelphia. It snowed while I was there. I'm like, I'm so over.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm not really into a whole lot of the cold weather either. I don't like it blistering hot neither. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, it's a lot easier to go jump in a pool than it is to go,
jump in a fire. I don't know. No, what do you do now?
Okay, well, I'm a fireman, so I kind of do.
Okay, well, yeah.
I love that. That was way to go, though. Good point. Yeah, that was it. That was like the exact opposite. Warrior fire. Jumping from here. I mean, yeah, I guess I wonder how people will feel in like Antarctica or something like that. I guess they're so used to it, it doesn't bother them.
You do. I lived in Minnesota for about 11 years. And I remember when I realized I'd been here too long, it was sunny outside, but it was cold. But I looked at the bank had the temperature on the wall, and it was 11 degrees. And I'm like, oh, this feels good. I said, yeah, I've been here too long. Where 11 degrees feels good. I know I've been here too long.
11 degrees should never feel good. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, there's no way you can look at, 11 degree. Yeah. No. Mm-mm. Nope.
No.
No.
Okay. Something's wrong.
I don't know.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's awesome. So you seem like a whole lot of fun. You like what do you do for like hobbies and everything else like that?
My latest thing that I've been spending time is like 1,500 piece puzzles.
Okay.
Love it.
What's the difficulty rating on your puzzles?
The last one I did was butterflies.
Okay, that's hard.
It was butterflies, but it was like the Roy G. Biv. So it went from purple to blue to green to yellow to orange to red. 1,500 pieces. It was like one of the hardest puzzles that I've ever done. But what I loved about it was your eyes, you start to pay attention. At first, all the blue pieces look the same. And then you start to realize that they're not all blue, that there's some different shades. And it kept, it was I got to see that pattern with each color. So I'm a nerd. I love that kind of stuff. But that's what I've been spending most of my time doing, lately is those puzzles. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
He's like, that's not fun at all.
My wife loves puzzles and my daughter does as well. Now, we've been really busy for the last couple of years. So we haven't had the opportunity to really get like the new puzzles and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to my eldest daughter coming down to Florida. Yeah. My youngest daughter is about to graduate.
Oh, wow.
And so just like the chemistry of all of us, like the gang being back together, kind of sort of. I don't know what's going to end up happening, if we'll go out or we'll have puzzle time. I don't know.
There you go. That's very cool. I have one daughter and she's here with me in Florida. And so I really cherish that time with her when she decides that she's going to do the puzzle with me, because otherwise it's, it's a teenager. But I love when when we do it together, we get to hang out some. So I understand that.
How old is she?
20.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. I was thinking about my little 12-year-old, and this morning I nearly jumped on him to get him to go work out with me. And when he finally did, it was pretty amazing. We had a great time at the gym and everything. And I challenged him a little bit to really get him to push. And he did really well, but it's just so much fun when the kids, take that time to be, mom or dad. It's priceless.
Yeah. And then you have to act cool about it, because, like inside you're like, good, and you're like, yeah, but you have to be cool about it so that they don't be like, you're weird,
I don't know. Let me tell you sometime. I'm not like that. I'm like, no, I mess it up all the time. They're like, oh, cringe. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And my daughter knows that about me already,
I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. You're too much fun. You're way too much fun. And here's the thing about it is I believe that they love it.
Mm-hmm. They do.
I really love it. Yeah. It's like, oh, my mom's the coolest mom ever. I'm sure that's what she's saying.
Yeah. She was my partner on a road trip.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
It's like cringe. I need more.
Yeah. Like raw TV, right? Like reality TV. Cringe. Don't tell everybody I watched this, but I want to watch some more. Yeah.
Did you just compare us to bad TV?
I did.
We are our own reality show. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it's true, right? I mean, some reality TV is really, really bad. Some is just bad. Some is really, really bad. And I'm here for a lot of it, too much of it. So
yeah, well we are really, really good reality TV. The best. Yeah. Speaking of best, you were featured in the Huffington Post and Forbes.com, Money Magazine, Black Enterprise, and the Boss Network.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I'll tell you about the Huffington Post because there's some lessons, in there. I've always wanted to be a writer since I was little. Like, when they asked, they wanted to get me a bike for Christmas, and I said no, because I wanted a typewriter instead. Like, I'm that kind of geek. When this is back when the Huffington Post was popular. It's not as, I don't even know if it had the same name as it does now, as it did then, but I really wanted to write for them, and I kept submitting stuff, and it was getting turned down. It was like embarrassingly so getting turned down. But I had a client who actually got stuff published in the Huffington Post, and I was like, hey, she's my client. I'm showing her stuff. How'd she get in there, right? But I had to really let my ego get out of the way, or move my ego out of the way. And so I finally asked her, I said, how did you get to write for the Huffington Post? And she was like, oh, well, I was at this event and I met Ariana Huffington. She's like, do you want me to introduce you? I'm like, sure. Introduced me to Ariana Huffington via email. Within the next week, I was writing for the Huffington Post. And it's one of my favorite stories to share, because a lot of times we don't want to ask, I say this all the time: a closed mouth don't get fed. If you're not talking about it, if you're not asking about it, nobody knows. People can't read your mind. Whether it's trying to get into the Huffington Post, or whether it's trying to get help with your business, trying to get help with your career, people can't read your mind. But you have to take your ego, put your ego to the side and ask for what you need. And just because I asked that question, that's how I got to write for the Huffington Post.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great story. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about a scripture when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just in short, it would say, we have not because we ask not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Or I'll do you one even better. We have not because we don't ask for what we really want.
Yay.
And that was my story for a while. I had that epiphany one day. I'm like, I'm really frustrated with what's happening right now. But at the same time, I'm not really asking for what I really want. I'm asking for what I think I can get. Right? And we do that to ourselves a lot. I think I can get this, so this is what I'm going to ask for. No, how about you be really honest about what you really, really want and ask for that instead?
That's good. So we have not because we don't ask for what we really want. That's good. How did you develop that mind? Was this the day when you met Ariana Huffington that you attempted this act, and then from that day forward, you began to understand that I have to ask for what I really want when I need that?
Honestly, this has been an ongoing journey. It's about doing the work, right? My brother is a Grammy-nominated Christian rapper who has since deconverted, which is a whole other conversation, right? But he had this line in one of his poems. One of his raps that always stuck with me. It says, everybody wants to be, but nobody wants to become. And that's, I think, the difference is I was willing to do the work to become. You can't just show up and, a lot of people do this on social media. They got the picture, they get the photo shoot, and then it looks like they are this, but they really haven't done the work behind it to become anything. And so all the journeys that I've taken, the lessons that I've learned over the years, it's been a lot of hard work, because I was a mess, with 4 S's, not the 2 S's, but with 4 S's. Right. But I was willing to do the work, and I had some really great mentors and some really amazing people that sewed into me and pushed me through and pulled me through at times to get to the place where I am now.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So your brother wrote this rap, or you at one point in time you called it a poem, which I like that as well.
Yeah.
And everybody's willing to be, but nobody's willing to become. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Everybody wants to be, nobody wants to become.
Everybody wants to be, nobody wants to become. And so you were always willing to become.
Yeah. I wanted, Cass, I'm going to give you another line from another famous person that that shook me when I first heard it. It was from Viola Davis. She gave a speech, and she said that her instinct was bigger than her upbringing. And the first time I heard it, it shook me, because I'm like, finally somebody gets me. Like, you can grow up in a certain way, but I knew that there was something else. I just didn't know. I didn't have words for it. I didn't have vision for it, but I knew my instinct was bigger than what I grew up in. Right. And so I've always been that person where I was reaching for something else, or I was willing to learn. I was willing to ask questions. I was willing not to settle, right, for what was here, what was presented to me, because I had this instinct that there's something else, and I was always willing to work towards that.
And so when you say always, do you mean that from like as a child, or is this, like your 20s?
No, I always had that in me, that I'm a learner, right? In second grade, I was in a fifth grade reading class, right? So so it's always been, I'm gonna learn this, or I'm curious, I'm hungry, I'm gonna read. I've always had that instinct. I don't know how else to explain it. I've always had that, and it served me through these lessons, because I didn't stop asking questions. I think a lot of us, we label ourselves. No one ever helps me. I never get this. I always fail. And we put these labels on. And one of the things I realized was that I would ask questions. Well, how did they do that? Right? Who else can help me? Who do I know? Where can I go? Who else can I talk to? And asking questions, just like with the Huffington Post, right? Asking questions has been one of the things that it's curiosity, but there's also that expectation and hope that there is something else that I don't know. There is something else that maybe I don't see. There is something more, and that's always been something in me.
Yeah. So there's one theme that keeps coming to my mind, is that, you said put your ego to the side. And I believe that, when you're asking these questions, for some people, it can be really difficult. And I wonder if it was difficult for you to kind of be so humble enough to ask somebody else how to, when to, where to, why to.
It was difficult. And I always kind of weigh the difficulty, right? If you have a scale, right? Something's more difficult than the other. It was much more difficult for me to want this and not be able to get it. Like, I'm miserable because I really want to write. I've got something to say. I'm going to put this out there, and I can't do it. Now, I could spend all this time having an attitude and, hating on people that were getting it, or I could just ask the question. And it has everything to do with what we believe about ourselves. I think a lot of times we don't want to ask because what we really do believe is that we're not worthy. That we're not worthy. We believe that nobody really cares. We say, and this is, I'm no longer traditionally a Christian, right? But I know in church world we talk a lot about faith and this, but we don't really believe it. Because, and the reason I'll say it is because we make our decisions based on fear. Right? I'm afraid of this happening, or what if this, instead of, well, if you've got the divine on your side, what is there to fear? All of your steps are ordered. Your steps can't be wrong. Even if it's a failure, it's just a stepping stone to what's next. But because we don't really, really believe that, we can talk a good game sometimes, right? I see a lot of us make our decisions based on fear, and not based on, hey, I'm fully supported, I'm fully guided. I have everything that I need is already available to me if I just take the next step. And that's a whole different place to operate from. And it took a long time for me to get to that space, but it's so worth it. It was so worth it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. This comparison. And I think this is a pretty big conversation, maybe in the social community right now. It's just, faith versus fear. it was a huge conversation, obviously, inside of, in spiritual institutions around the world, because that's like one of those things that you have to be able to break. If you want to trust in God, you have to be able to break this fear versus faith type of thing. And that's one of the challenges, according to my faith, that's one of the challenges that I read about, from the time of the Israelites all the way to the time of the early Christians. It was always this fear versus faith. And when you conquer the fear, there's nothing left but faith. And then you just see the people ascending, in whichever way. There is absolutely nothing that could happen to these individuals that we read about that wasn't concluded to be good for them, in their eyesight. And that's powerful, because you just mentioned that even if you fail, it's just a stepping stone to what's next.
Yeah.
That is a mindset. How did you develop that mindset?
Quite honestly, I had to let go of a lot of the Christian beliefs that I had that were like, pushed into me. I had to let go of a lot of those. I was taught, and listen, there's, I'm sorry. I was taught that, the Bible is the inerrant word and is the only truth and this, and that was a big roadblock for me for a long period of time, because what it did for me was it taught me that my only salvation was a person who saw me as something that was unworthy. Right. And it was like, God sees you, your righteousness is filthy rags, and God sees you as, you're a sinner. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I didn't ask to come here, and then, and I'm this. And so that was a really big stumbling block for me. And the moment I let that go, and, I said, I really want to know, I don't want religion, right? I believe we're all spiritual beings because we've got that innately in us. But I really want to know this for myself. I want to know God for myself. And the minute I started on that path, that's when a lot of things began to change for me, because then I started thinking about this, if fear is a thing that's making people act the way they act and making people hate the way they hate and making people make these decisions that are causing all this harm to other people, but the same God tells me that I have to be fearful of him, there's something wrong with that picture for me. And the minute I started exploring some other, let's really think about this. Let's really, really take a look at this. That opened up a lot of doors for me to first, love who I am, accept all the things that I've been through, good and bad, disappointments, all of those things, but also forgive myself and forgive other people. And I had to step out of that from a fear sense. So that's the long story. And, of the middle story, I guess, is a longer story, but that's the middle story of, how I got to this place where I am. I had to let go of a lot of what I was brought up in.
That's interesting. I love it. I love it. I love that you're able to share that, because, that means the life that we go through and the things that cause us to make these different choices, it's very, very important, because there's no two stories that are the same. For me, it was like the same but opposite. You know what I mean? It was like the same but opposite. For me, I always felt like there was always more love coming from my God, and that I held myself accountable for so much. But every single day, like I remember a scripture when David said, brand new mercies every day, your loving kindness. And I'm like, well, if he loves me so much, then why am I holding myself for yesterday's deeds? Like, what if I just let all that stuff go? And I got to the same point that you got to. It was like, I need to let go of everything. I need to forgive myself. I need to forgive the people around me and just let these things go. And when I did, it's like, okay, the crusade just like built up inside of me. I'm like, I am strong. You know what I mean? And it was like this powerful movement just to know that if I take this next step, I know that I'm supported, because there isn't anything that could ever separate me. And when I thought about it like that, it's like, I'm not bound by this fear.
Yeah.
I'm strengthened by encouragement. And so I love that, because there's 8 billion people in the world. And in order for us all to get where we need to be, there's got to be a story that fits us all, that helps us all. So I love the way that you're telling your story and sharing it.
But I appreciate that, and I really thank you for creating this space where people can come and tell their stories. I think there's all too many philosophies out there that say there's only one and this and this and this. And in reality, nobody knows for sure. It's all about your faith and what you choose to believe in. And it is a choice. You get to choose to believe, you get to choose to live your life, you get to choose how you're going to make decisions, you get to choose what you value, you get to choose what's important to you, so it's about those choices that we make. And everybody's journey, everybody's story has value. There's something that we can learn from each other and with each other if we take the time to listen.
Very good. Very good. I love it. And so listening, that brings me back to like the label versus the questions, because that was one of the things that you had mentioned, is that you had felt like there was so many labels, whether they were upon you or whether you were living in those labels. And you decided that you would just start to ask questions to be able to advance yourself and to understand.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? That thought process that just was like, ask the question, fear not.
Oh, man, you know what? It came from, I think it was Byron Katie. I don't know if you know her at all, but she has a book called Is It True? And that was the big question. So, we think these things about us and nobody ever does this. And then you have to ask, well, is that really true? Right? Or, a lot of us, I always, or people always, well, is that true? No, it's not 100% true. Okay, so if that's not 100% true, then what's really happening, right? And if it's not 100% true, then what else am I? If that's not 100% true, what else have I been saying is true and may not be true? And so it goes back to that being curious, and it goes back to what you really believe at your core about who you are. If I really believe that, there's a divine source. If I truly believe, that there's love, if I truly believe all these things, is it true that no one will ever help me? Can't be, right? They both can't live in the same place. And so it's taking out it's two things. It's a combination of trusting what your intuition and what your gut says, right? Because our gut tells us, I think, a lot of times that we are capable. And then our brains kind of talk us out of it, right? And so I tell my clients all the time, I am the best at having conversations where I talk myself out of stuff. I'll have a great idea, and then 3 minutes later, it'll be a horrible idea. And we have these kind of conversations with ourselves. Oh, I should do X, Y, and Z. And then before you know it, yeah, but the last time, and then and then you've talked yourself out of it. So it's finding that balance of when you feel that instinct or that thing in your spirit that says, oh, you should try this or maybe this. Instead of putting the labels on it, just start to ask some better questions. Okay. So then it doesn't become, well, last time you tried X, Y, and Z, it failed, and nobody's going to help you do that. It becomes, well, who could you talk to this might have done it before? Who in your network could help you answer that question? Who else do you want to talk to? Like one of my mentors, this is a great example. This is one of my mentors. So one of my early jobs after college, I worked with AmeriCorps. Best job I ever had. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I was a site manager for a school in the inner city of North Philadelphia. And through AmeriCorps, we got to create these amazing programs. We created a chess program, a cheerleading program, a community comic book program because the guys don't like to read, right? So what I said was, and my background is in education. I graduated, education degree, right? I was going to be a teacher and all that kind of stuff. But they don't like to read, but they like to draw. So let's get some art teachers and some English teachers and show them how to create comic strips so they'll read and they'll get to do their artwork. And it was amazing. It got featured in the paper. The Eagles Youth Partnership came in and did some sponsorship. It was the best job I ever had. The only problem, and this is one of my pet peeves with our culture, the only problem is it paid crap.
Mm-hmm.
I had never worked so hard and had so much fun, but my paycheck was literally about $16,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really want to do that again. And so my brain was like, oh, let's find this. But my gut was like, oh, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. My brain was like, yeah, but it doesn't pay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my brain was like, oh, you'll never be able to survive. And then my mentor was like, let's ask some different questions. Ask your thing. So what other questions can you ask? And so then the questions became, well, who could fund something like this?
Right.
Totally different. Oh, Gates Foundation, all these other places. I haven't tapped into those yet. So now that becomes my directive, is how do I start tapping into these people that can fund something like this, instead of, oh, schools don't pay and nobody has any money for X, Y, and Z. I could talk myself out of that, or I could ask some better questions and move towards that new calling or new purpose.
Mm. So having your mentor be there with you, having someone to kind of like guide you just a little bit when maybe doubt started to arise inside your conscious, was that one of the things that really helped to move you forward?
Oh, absolutely. Having a mentor that sees my bigger picture,
Mm.
and I think a lot of time we don't have a lot of those people in our lives that are willing um, to love us through the ups and downs of everything. And I talk about this often because it's so important, especially in our community, the community of women and Black women of color, but diagnosed with bipolar depression.
Mhm.
And there have been times where, it just floors me, where either the medication wasn't working or there was something else, or just getting floored by it. And I remember just wanting to just hide. I didn't want to talk to anybody, and I just wasn't connecting. And my mentor, it makes me laugh when I think about it to this day. She made me take her to lunch.
Okay.
She said, I haven't seen you. You're taking me to lunch. And she made me take her to lunch. And she said, you don't get to hide. She used a couple of expletives in there. Right? But she said, you don't get to effing hide. I was like, okay. But I needed that nudge. I needed that push. I needed that with all the love that she had. I needed to hear her say that. And anytime I feel like going back into that place where, oh, it's so hard today, I don't want to do, those words come back. You don't get to hide. And there's somebody that's listening to this right now who's probably in that space where, there's always that self-doubt. There's always that struggle. It doesn't go away no matter how much success you get, it comes back, right? You have to address it. You have to deal with it. You have to talk to it. But people need to know that for some of us, we don't get to hide. And I have a book called Girlfriend, It's Your Time. And it's so funny. I laugh because I write messages to myself for future, right, in my writing. One of the things that I wrote in the book was that there are people that can't step into their purpose until you step into yours.
Mm.
So simply by me stepping into my purpose and owning my story and doing my work, I am opening the door for other people. And her saying that you don't get to hide, that's another iteration of that. If you're hiding, even with all of your flaws, even with all of your doubts and questions, if you're hiding, you're not able to show up and open the window, the door for the other people that need it. And it's not meant to be heavy. So I'm going to make that really clear, because some people can hear that like, oh my gosh, it's heavy and it's all on me. No, the reality is all you simply have to do is just be. Just show up, and your only obligation is to be the most brilliant version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you being the most brilliant version of yourself opens the door for other people to be the most brilliant version of themselves. And I get excited when I think about that, because if you just imagine a world where everybody got that assignment and understood that their only obligation is to be the most brilliant version of themselves, and then we're all connecting and helping each other do that, that would be so amazing. Right?
Agreed.
Oh my gosh.
Agreed. It's funny you say that. I was having a conference. I was on a men's conference maybe about 5 or 6 days ago, something like that. And we were all talking about, masculinity, what it is to be a male, what it is to be a man, all these different things. And I was the last person to speak, and we were at the very end of the conversation. And I quoted a scripture. It was out of the book of Genesis or whatever. And it just talks about how God created man. And my answer, after hearing everything else, my answer was this. It was like, well, masculinity, it's a farce. Now, there's some people out there that may get upset with me for what I'm saying right now. But I was like, masculinity, it's a farce. Because basically, to be masculine is just for a man to do something that makes him a man. That's masculinity. That's not what we were created to be. What we were created to be, according to my belief, was in the image of God. What was God? He was a worker. He created heavens and earth and all this other stuff in 6 days, and he made man. He gave birth to generations of people, and then he sat back and he looked at it. He was like, this is good. So he was a thinker. He was a visionary. He was a creator. He was a worker. God was this. He was omnipotent. He was present. He made things happen out of nowhere. He is, be. That's what he was. And he created us to be. That's what we are. We're designed to be. So really, to be a man, or even for that fact, to be a woman, is to be. That's exactly what it is. It is to be the best of your design, which makes you divine. And that is the essence of human beings, which is to be and to continuously be. And that's what I came up with. And that was my answer. And so it's funny because there was a lot of, kind of crickets. And there was some people like, no, be masculine, whatever. But that's what it was, and I just kind of like stripped down all the other things. I'm curious, what would you think about that in that statement, considering what you just said about to be?
I think it's right on point. I think we get so confused about, we get confused about a lot of things. We get confused about culture, right? And what the context of our culture requires, right, in order for people to survive. And so we start creating all these things and these rules and these boundaries and these limitations and all these things because we need something, right? Like we want to be able to put a label on something. We want to be able to define something. And I kind of think that it's a little bit of a cheat because it's easier for us sometimes to try to define or judge someone else rather than to stay in our lane and create what we want. Because that being means that we get to create. I'm a big believer in that we get to create what we want by our words, by our actions. And we've got to learn this. It's not, it's not something that it doesn't come easy for all of us because we got to unlearn a lot of stuff sometimes, right? But we get to create with the power of our words, with our actions, with the decisions that we make. And for people that don't have the courage to do that, they default into judgment. And they default into saying, no, the only way is you have to be and think exactly like me. And that was I don't think that was ever how we were designed to be, right? We're, I'll kind of tie this back into what you're saying about God as the creator. If we're supposed to be in his image, that's great. But we have to remember, we're not trying to be in the image of another man.
That's right.
Is what I think a lot of people do. They try to make other people in the image of themselves. And quite honestly, some of the books that are out there, right, that people, go to, they've tried to make God in the image of themselves as well. And that's where we run into a lot of issues because they try to put the human characteristics on something that's divine.
Very good. Very well spoken. And that's what, and that's once again, that's kind of like where it all came and erupted for me, because I know that there's a lot of part of the writings and what I've read, it denotes these characteristics that can be somewhat humanish in order to relate with somebody's mind. But from the very beginning, it was the image that was created was more like the divine. And that's why he abhorred any image, because the minute an image would come up, that meant that someone will be looking at the image rather than looking at the divine. And when you look at the divine, it's very hard to understand exactly what that is, except you take that time to just like explore the truth inside of you, and to get in that contact. Because really, we as beings, I mean, even now modern day science tries to look into the human body, and they try to figure out all these different things. And every time they figure out something else, they figure out there's something else that they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with space. Every time they figure out they learn something, they know, well, that's not a planet, that is a planet. Then they realize that there's a place that they've never seen, that they've never been. And it's just infinite possibilities. And that's what life is. Life is infinite possibilities of being. And that's where life is. Life is not in the past. It's not in the future. It's in the present. That's the only place you can live life at. Everything else is either a memory or it's a vision, one or the other. But life is only in the present, and living in that presence and making that presence, owning it and being. That's where life is at. And I just love that, because you decided I wasn't gonna live by a label. This is my only life that I have, that I'm going to question everything and be sure in the decisions I make and live by them.
Yeah, I was telling my brother the other day just how exciting this time is, for a lot of people, because I think a lot of folks are letting go of beliefs, whether it's religious beliefs, scientific beliefs, or other beliefs that just don't serve us elevating or us evolving into the next thing that we're evolving or changing into. And I'm not talking about animalistic, kind of things. I'm just talking about even like emotionally and spiritually and mentally. And it's so exciting for me to see people really asking more questions, right? I take a look at a lot of the stories, like even from the Bible perspective, and just realize that I don't find fault in humans being human and trying to write something down to capture something, right? Which is what a lot of the stories are, right? I don't find fault in that because that's who we are, right? We're doing it today. I laugh, like we've got videos and cell phones, and people can still watch the same video and still say completely two different things, right? When you look at some stories from long, long time ago, or from tales from long, long time ago, they didn't even have that. They didn't even have like the words, they didn't even have the letters to even write things. So I don't ever get bothered by, text or books or things like that, where people are trying to capture their story about how they connected to the universe, or how they connected to God, or how they connected spiritually. Because I think that's just a human experience, is that we want some way to define or to talk about what we're experiencing, and I think that evolves and that changes over time. And it's really exciting to see that it's starting to change, and it's starting to transform, and people are starting to ask questions. And when we ask questions, and we've got more technology, but we've also got more heart, I think, too. And I just think it's really exciting to be alive at this time, to see all the things that are developing.
So let me ask you this, because we are living in an age of questioning. I think in the last, decade to 2 decades, the age of the questioning really began to move. I guess I would be like millennials and forward. That is the age of question everything. And my concern with that is that, if I'm questioning everything and disbelieving everything, then what am I making my answer? But how do I come up with what is true, what is not true? How will I walk? How will I not walk? Which way will I walk? And all these different things that come out of that because of, disbelief or doubt in systems and persons and places. So what is the answer? When we know that to question things, to learn, to gain understandings, what is the question, or what is the answer to the individual's thirst for questioning everything?
Well, what came to mind when you asked me that question was, sometimes we don't have to have an answer. I'm gonna liken it to dating. I remember when I first got back into dating, and I was dating this guy, and my sister, and I hadn't been dating for very long, this person, and my sister was like, "Oh, so do you think that you guys are gonna be together?" Da, da? And I spent like a week in my head trying to like answer that question. And then it finally dawned on me, it's been 2 months. I don't have to have an answer to that question yet, right? And I think a lot of times we do that. Like we try to force an answer right now when we don't need an answer to everything right now. And so, yes, we have the ability to question everything and anything, but I think we get to come back to, is this a question I really need to have an answer to right now? It's like we don't always have to have an answer right now. And sometimes we can't have an answer right now because we don't have enough information. We don't have enough experience. We're not talking to the right people. We're not even really sure about what the question is. I mean, there's all these reasons that we may not need to get the answer right now. So sometimes I think that's just what the answer is that, is this something that you really need an answer to right now? And when we put it in context of our society, I could spend time trying to debate somebody about, hey, is the Bible true or is the Bible not true? And I could devote my entire time to that. Or I could say, you know what? Right now, I really don't have enough information to answer that. But you know what I can answer? How many hours can I go devote to help some people that are homeless?
Okay.
Right? Because that's the real question that needs an answer. Right? We got people that are homeless. We got kids that are in horrible schools. We've got people that commit to teaching in schools that don't feel supported. Or I could try to answer all these other questions and force people to believe what I'm believing. Is that really going to move things forward? Probably not, when there's some other things that I could do. So again, it goes back to, is this a question that do I have everything I need to answer this question right now? Is it a priority for me to answer right now? Or can I stay curious while, I'm figuring it out, while I'm learning, while I'm talking to people, while I'm having some other experiences that are going to help me answer that? Can I be curious about that and then go solve some problems that I can really solve?
Mm. I like that. I like that. I like your answer right there. Can I tell you what I believe?
Absolutely.
See, while you speak, you come across as someone who is very sure about themselves and even sure about the things that they're not sure about. And I love that. I love that. You come across very genuine. You touch my heart when you speak. You touch my heart when you smile, when you move your hands around. I know that you believe exactly what you say. And that makes me a believer in you because I could feel it. So you said something at one point in time. You said instinctual. You used that word. And I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that really, really touched my heart when, 25 years ago, whatever it was, less than that, a little bit less than that. But so many years ago, over 2 decades ago, when it touched my heart was when I took all of the math, the reasoning, the education, I just like threw it all out the window. And I was just like, on broken knee, and I'm just like, I need what I don't know what I need. And then a feeling came across me, and instinctually, I knew it was real.
Oh, no.
That has been the energy that has moved me from that day to this day. And that's why I can sit here and I can hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I can know that this is good.
Yeah.
This is real, because there's something inside of you that I could see, that I could close my eyes and I could feel that people that listen to the podcast will be able to interact with. I saw the screen show Anna clapping her hands loudly. So there's something by the way we project our own energy, our own flow, that is divine right there. And when that thing touches you, it speaks in a certain way. It doesn't even matter what the words are that are coming out of the individual's mouth at that point in time, because there's a coding in that word, in that phrase, in that moment, in the essence, in the power, in the flow. There's a coding right there that reaches down on the inside, and it's like a key, and it just unlocks something right then and there. And so that's what I felt. And I heard you mention that a little bit. I love it.
Oh, no, I appreciate you sharing that. It's been a journey, and it's so funny because I think we're so opposite, like in our journey, because I kind of grew up in it. It's like, I mean, I laugh when I tell people this, but I was in college for 5 years because of the program. It wasn't like I was like not doing what I was supposed to do, but I was in school for 5 years and I didn't go to a single party because I was so enraptured in faith and in church. And I mean, it was literally like Sunday was church, Monday was nothing, Tuesday was Bible study, Wednesday was youth Bible study, Thursday was gospel choir, Friday was Bible study, Saturday was, choir practice. I mean, that was my life for about 5 years in college. And I remember, the first time that I decided I was going to get rid of all the books, I was going to get rid of all the Bibles, I was going to toss all that stuff out. And I had never felt so free, and it was scary, But what I said was that here's what my honest prayer was. My honest prayer was, I want to know you for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I honestly felt, I wouldn't even call it like, how can I say it? If you grew up in any kind of church, there's this whole saved thing, right? And I remember from like 8 or 9 years old, I would be getting saved all the time because, I'm saved, but then I did something, so I'm not saved. So I got to go back to the altar and, I'm going to go to the altar, and that was my perpetual life, every Sunday and I just see that in churches all the time where every Sunday people going to the altar for the same things. It's not working out. And it wasn't until I let go of a lot of that stuff and I made that, I want to know you for myself. And that was the first time I had a secure feeling from the inside that it was all good. And I never questioned that again. Never questioned again. And I share that to say that everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own spiritual journey. And I think sometimes we get caught up in saying, well, my spiritual journey has to look like so-and-so's. And since so-and-so had this experience, I've got to have this experience too. And that's simply not true. But we've got to be willing to ask the questions. You've got to be willing to have that honest, if whatever created us, if we can't have an honest conversation with that and ask questions, there's a problem, right? So, I don't have all the answers. I learned some things. I'm always learning. I'm always willing to listen. I'm always staying curious. And I will say that making that the priority, right, of staying curious, being gracious with myself and other people, asking the questions that I need to ask and acting, like taking action, those are the things that have gotten me through have gotten me to where I am now. And it keeps building and it keeps working and I keep running into people like you and having these great conversations with folks like you. And it's amazing. That's the best way to describe it right now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think that's it. I think that's the answer of all answers. Stay curious. Keep asking.
Yeah.
When you hit those roadblocks, ask more questions. Figure it out. I love it. That's good. It's real good stuff. Real good stuff. Listen, Tai, tell me, if you had a final word that you wanted to give to everybody, what would that word be? And also, how can people reach you?
Oh, great question. My final word is usually that quote that I said earlier. There are people who can't show up, right? There are people who can't step into their purpose until you step into yours. And I share that, and I want people to wholeheartedly hear that, because if we compare ourselves so often to other people, this person is doing this and I'm not doing this, or this person is, here and I'm never going to. And listen, us just owning the fact that our only job is to show up and be the best version of ourselves, there's nothing more brilliant than that, you know. And if folks want to find me, you can put Tai Goodwin. You know, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, even TikTok, God forbid. But I'm out there at all those places. Under Tai Goodwin, and that's where you can find me. And I love to have great conversations. I'm always interested in meeting people who want to have a good conversation. It's the true introvert in me. I am an introvert. Totally. Like after this, I'm going to take a nap. But I love good conversations, and I love learning with people. So look for me at Tai Goodwin. You'll find me.
Absolutely amazing. That's awesome. All right, Tai, we're going to let you go into the back of the house real quick, and I'm going to close out this. I absolutely have enjoyed you. You're amazing. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Tai Goodwin, everybody. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. She brought to us some really key things, you know, about putting your ego to the side and ask questions. Don't just settle for being the label. Don't settle for being the label. Ask the questions. Ask the questions. Ask the appropriate questions. And, you know, sometimes you got to ask another and another and another until you get it just right. I'm so glad to have met her. What she brought to our show today is priceless. So I hope that you have enjoyed her. Just remember, wherever you are, as much as it starts with you, it starts with me. Peace.